Hey there, little friends. Here I am again, really face to face, up close and personal, to talk to those so-called musicians who keep going on about plagiarism, saying Zuno steals, that our music is our art. Well, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. First of all, if you dare to reach out to me saying that I'm not a musician, let me explain something to you. First, I know way more about music than you do. I'm what you could call a musical director, a music producer. I understand every instrument on the market, from symphony orchestras to chamber orchestras, to all kinds of bands and every instrument, whether they're native, folk, or beyond. For those lowlifes, for those people who call themselves musicians, let me break it to you, you're not musicians. Being an instrumentalist is not the same as being a musician. Musician is a word that etymologically, what, you don't understand that word? Well, the origin of that word is muse. It's inspiration. It's what makes someone else feel inspired. Through what? Through this, which is sound, through this, which is notes in sequence. Of course, throughout history, humans have changed the meanings of words depending on the context, but we can't apply that concept to someone who just plays an instrument. To be a musician, we have to create something that evokes emotions in the way we intend to. And in this sense, the majority, I'm not going to say all, but on a scale, almost everyone, regionally I'd say almost everyone, aren't musicians. They're just trained monkeys who play an instrument. You know what? There was a time in my life when I wanted to create. The same thing happens to me with drawing. Let's call out the people who are out there talking nonsense. I wanted to make music. What happens? To make music, a human only has a few instruments. The voice has its limits. So we try to find different kinds of accompaniment for the voice. There are two big stars in the field of creating music. One is the piano, right? Which is a very modern instrument, but one is the struck string, or sometimes stretch string. In some cases, the piano is struck. And the other is the guitar, which in a way is in the same category. What happens is that what we do with the string is stretch it and give it little taps. We press down. So the tuning isn't fixed, there are fewer strings. And so we make music. What's interesting about the guitar, like the piano, has the ability to play chords, but at the same time it can also play melodies with single notes. I'm explaining this for people with limited intellectual resources, okay? People like those who comment on Zuno or leave comments on some video saying, "Oh, this sounds like the Wizard of Oz." And the Wizard of Oz sounds like everything else. When a Spaniard comes up to me and says, "Oh, because my local band," my dear, you're tone deaf, you don't have perfect pitch, there are only a few of us, you know? But perfect pitch lets you find the parameters. You know what has perfect pitch? YouTube. If YouTube had thought I was plagiarizing the Wizard of Oz, it wouldn't have let me publish that video. And on top of that, it would tell me there's a copyright issue. Because here, everything that could be done in court regarding data sets falls apart right away. I don't know why lawyers aren't using this argument, because to plagiarize, you have to literally take things. What does literal mean? For those who don't have the literal ability to understand. Note for note, entire segments, or the whole song. Okay. That's plagiarism. Okay? There is no other form of plagiarism. Okay? Inspiration is something totally and completely legal. And for those who don't understand what's legal versus what's not legal, let's review. Capcom wanted to file a lawsuit. I used this as an example last time. Capcom lost. All the companies that tried to sue over the image, over the concept, lost. Why? Because you can't reserve a style, a musical style. Do you get that you can't reserve a musical style? Oh, the style of Katapiku Machu. You can't reserve a musical style, you can't reserve a vocal timbre, you can't reserve the timbre of an instrument. Instruments can't be claimed as someone's own in musical terms, because otherwise everyone who plays a Gibson Les Paul would have to pay. On top of the guitar itself, they'd have to pay Gibson I'm not going to give Gibson any ideas, but they'd have to pay Gibson royalties every time they play with that guitar, because the Gibson sound is unique to Gibson. Okay? So, are you starting to get it, you who made that ignorant comment? I mean, maybe with the first parts of this video, I can at least inform people who don't know about music, who don't know about music history, about instruments, about luthery. People who know nothing, absolutely nothing. Because when you look for a data set, it's just like a musician, because a musician trains with a data set. They train with a data set. So what now? Does that mean every musician in the world will have to start paying Miles Davis? Or pay every guitarist, singer, or pianist who picked up their instrument and played it a certain way? Is this starting to sound familiar to you musicians? Is this ringing any bells for you, producers? You are not music producers. You are thieves. You are talentless people who have never in your life understood what music is. You have never in your life understood what creativity is. And you're so basic, so mediocre, so uncreative, that instead of taking this and using it to make things better, to show who's supposedly the real musician, no, you go out and demand a law. Typical of you mediocres. You want a law, you want agreements, you want union arrangements. Only a mediocre person is in a union. Only someone who doesn't have real ability wants that kind of protection. Why? Because they can't compete with a better product on their own. Plagiarism is already defined by law, and it's super easy to take to court. Hey, super easy. Because it has to be literal, they have to steal your stuff specifically. If that doesn't happen, this whole thing about it looks similar, you know what I recommend, buddy? Get lost. Get lost. You don't have the brains to hear the difference, so you think it's the same. You don't have the musical ear to understand what's actually the same in something melodic, harmonic, in a combination of notes, in musical polyphony. Are we clear? No one who really understands, no real director, no real producer would be against this. Why? Because for us, those of us who had to learn an instrument to create, let me say it again, even a trained monkey can learn to play the guitar. Yeah, no. That's why a computer can learn to play the guitar, guys. You don't need to be special. You don't need to be special at all. The instrument, this doesn't make you an artist. You get it? This and this make you an artist. The passion you put into it, the message you convey. You're so empty, simple, clueless. You don't get this because you're the majority. You know what you are? The masses, dumb, barely trained in reflective thinking, who by chance can tie two things together, and that's why they get a place that's given to them by others. You never give yourselves a place on your own. And in that sense, this happens everywhere. Today, the real producers, the real musicians, okay, I'm not including myself among the super mega real musicians. These musicians are going to do amazing things with this technology. They're going to create wonderful things, cheaper, more efficient, with less hassle. Because there's a really big issue here. Most of the people criticizing this come from a certain political movement. You want me to tell you something? Are you an eco-purist? Huh? Super progressive? Blah blah blah? Well, do you care about ecology? This solves ecological problems, and I'll tell you why. Because to make a guitar, you need wood, you need nylon, you need a bunch of materials. Where do those materials come from? Come on, Mr. Tomato Head, from the earth. So, the digital age, whether in publishing, animation, music, or anything else, what it does is save resources so you can spend less and produce more with better quality at a lower cost for more people. Do you get that? You all are the anti-ecological caveman Neanderthals who are screaming for us to cut down entire forests just to make your little flutes and guitars and who knows what else. These days, I don't need to buy any more instruments. Let's see. Back then, what did I have on my side? That's why I have a MIDI controller. Why do I have a MIDI controller? Let's think about it. First of all, because I have a multimedia production company. And second, because the best way to produce without having to deal with extraordinary costs was with a DAW, with a digital audio workstation, with virtual instruments, using MIDI tracks, and we had even pretty much managed to get some really cool voices to do dubbing within the applications. There are applications. I won, you another, but doesn't matter. That's just how it was. And that's why, thanks to the digital age, a ton of musicians and music producers popped up who didn't exist before, because the threshold to get into this used to be a lot of money. And I know that because I was in the traditional record industry. Let me tell you something, for those of you on the other side. Be careful who you get involved with, whose back you pat, whose butt you touch, because you might run into someone who's just low-key, that's all. Okay? And who was just waiting for the right moment to come out on the market. Peace, and I'm not saying this about myself, just to be clear, I'm not talking about me, but let me give you an example. You don't even know who I am. I'm sharing this because I have a very specific training center for people who want to get into entertainment, and I have a completely different method that nobody else uses, one that isn't mainstream or made for the masses or for machines. It's specifically for artists, for producers, for real entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs who want to do the most with the least. Okay. But that's also why there isn't much out there. That's why this whole channel is experimental. That's why my presence on social media is pretty empty. And only now am I starting to carve out a path. Alright? But why? Because I waited for the right moment with social media. Before that, I have a ton of experience. I have over 20 years of experience in all sorts of fields related to entertainment. From traditional theater, musicals, local folklore, rock bands, string quintets, small chamber orchestras, short films, medium-length films, documentaries, animation, television. I mean, you guys have no idea who I am. Now, let's stop talking about me. I'm a nobody. Hey, I'm a nobody, alright? Let's talk about some really cool people on the internet today. There are people on LinkedIn who don't have a single follower, but if you're smart and look into them, they're absolutely amazing. They're people with an incredible level of skill and an impressive track record. So, if I were you, I'd be very careful, because those truly impressive people are the ones who, with advanced artificial intelligence, are going to open up a whole new and significant market. And if you genuinely want to eat, if you truly want to eat, you're definitely going to have to turn to those very important people. And if you mess with God, meaning those influential people, you absolutely will not eat. And this is really important. Whether you're criticizing the narrative aspect of building entertainment with artificial intelligence, or whether you're in any of the areas that are seen as artistic, and I'll say it again, art isn't about making a painting, it's about the reasons why we do something. An accountant who creates a great ledger with passion and leaves the numbers perfect is an artist. Do you get where I'm going with this? For those who are a bit slower or need it spelled out. Alright, so this video doesn't get too long, and so the position of Introverso Entertainment, Entrenart, and all the companies I'm going to run for the next 25 years is clear. Let me explain it to you. Artificial intelligence is the new polyphonic instrument. You get it? For those who supposedly know about music, it's the orchestra. And what it needs is a great conductor. And what we are is orchestral conductors, composers of each of those tools, to achieve an output from an input. I know that's really hard for you. It would be like something goes in through that and comes out the other side as a product. And let me make this clear. The music comparison algorithms are perfect on YouTube and on all the platforms. Dear, there's no plagiarism. My love, there's no stealing. And another thing, if they're going to ban Suno, and this goes for Suno and all the amazing people at Suno and everyone who's doing this, go to court and say, if we can't use the existing musical datasets in the world as a reference, then you're going to have to ban all musicians from listening to music and all musicians from being inspired by other musicians, and you'll have to make them pay a fee to learn, so that every musician who ever created a style and is still alive, or their families if they've inherited it, gets paid. They're going to have to change the rules so much that no one will be able to speak, sing, or say anything anywhere. It's so dumb, so demagogic, so narrow-minded, so unintelligent. that honestly, even chimpanzees would understand what I'm saying. So this goes out to anyone who comments. I'm not going to respond because I've just answered, just like I answered about the image thing, okay? This is music and it involves sound. For those who say, no, it's better to go and bury the sound because I'm an engineer. Come on, buddy, you're just a trained monkey who takes a recording, brings it in, and processes it with an algorithm on the computer. Are you kidding me? You guys, you are completely out of your minds. This video is long. And do you know why? Because this is the first and last time I'm going to mark my territory like the wolf I am in this regard. And to any judge who wants to get involved in this, you better hold on tight because you're so wrong, you haven't read the laws properly, and you're out of line, and we're going to win anyway. Because humanity has always had these mediocre clans of people who have no talent, who, just because they did one thing, want to live off that one thing forever at the expense of others not being competitive and never beating them. Listen, I don't know if it'll be me, but I swear to you that the group of people working with artificial intelligence is going to beat you. And they're going to beat you just like the folks at Industrial Light and AMP. Magic did when they switched from analog to digital, blew everyone's minds, and learned to mix the best of the past with the best of the present to create the future. And all of us are in this together. I teach everyone how to do things the old way so they can choose when to do it and how to do it better. It's great to learn to play an instrument, but you know what? Now I compose all the harmonies, all the melodies, and the lyrics with my voice. With my voice, because the voice has all the necessary ranges to tell the machine what I want. I tell it which instrument I want, and it gives it to me, and that's how I create the instrumental lines. Come on, man, seriously. Anyone with 2 brain cells who's been making music for a long time, who composes, looks at this and says, this is a composer's paradise. But a lumpen, an ins, an instrumentalist, a button pusher, a key basher, okay? No, because they don't really make a living by creating music. They make a living by playing the music of real musicians. And let it be clear once and for all that this is the position of my studio, and anyone who wants to work with me will have to enter this field using these tools. And if not, there's the door, no problem. But whether it's image, sound, voice, acting, performance, everything that can be replaced should be replaced because it's more eco-friendly, because it's more economically profitable, and because being more profitable makes it more sustainable for everyone in the industry and opens doors for those with less to do more. To hell with it, as the Spaniards say. Goodbye.